Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zach. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the tea. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power T Talk. I'm ready for the bye week, if you were wondering. I'm okay with the bye week happening.
Daniel, I've been hearkening on volnation.com for about a decade that I wanted 9 SEC games. We finally get it. And then after that Saturday, about 8 o'clock, and I'm working on Rum and Coke number 4. I was like, no, actually, I don't want 9 SEC games. Give me my Ball State, my UAB. Tennessee
just
State.
The 3 traditional opponents, like just Bama, Kentucky, and Vandy. I know the rest we want the smoke, but I don't want that smoke.
I've changed my mind. I'm like, cool, yes. We have to go play at LSU every 2 years or whatever now. I was like, this is not fun.
I was listening back to our podcast from last week because I was trying to think about just what we placed and what we didn't place. And I think there's some things we nailed. There were actually a couple things that surprised me. And that was part of the pain we felt as we watched. But the very first point you made on the whole preview, basically, was I just want to see us take care of business early, be aggressive. You said, I don't want one of these silly things where we make a mistake and get down 7-0. You said, if we can just start quick, we have the talent to overtake them. And then the beginning of the game was just like, yeah, what if we didn't do that?
I don't know if it's the road woes, if it's the fact that we are a top 15 program now, what it might be. I was stressed out. I'm talking Apple Watch, 115 BPMs, sweating, like pulling out the alcohol, which is not something I normally do during football games. And just like, I don't know what exactly it was. That might be a top 5 stressful Heupel era game. When I actually look at, I was more stressed about this game than I was like 22 Georgia when so much more was on the line.
I think the most stressful game is 22 Bama for me.
Of course, yes.
But that season, the Pitt game was super stressful because it was like we all kind of had an inkling of how good we were. But there was no reason to believe it yet. It was like, whatever. And then we're playing Pitt, and it's like, oh, yeah, you're struggling with Pitt. You're going to overtime. And we're like, no, I promise we're pretty good. Things are just weird right now. But at this point in this game, I even knew that it would be tough. I talked all last podcast about how spooky I felt about it. I knew it was going to be a barn burner. But it was like, we have such promise, and there's so many good parts of it that when we started to do the dumb ticky-tack stuff, I was just like, y'all, you better rein this. Like, now we're in a battle. It was what I was thinking. Like, it doesn't take much when you're on the road in the SEC to give another team belief, and we gave it to them right away.
I forgot which Knoxville News Sentinel, Knoxville, Tennessee beat guy said that it was Pitt to the team. I think it might have been the same score, if I'm not mistaken, where it's like, we are better than this team. And we keep doing dumb stuff, and we had the slow start, although the Pitt game was worse. I think would have been 17-0. They didn't throw a pick in the end zone. But first off, huge credit to Mississippi State. Where you think about that program's been since Mike Leach passed away tragically. And the fact that they were able to take Tennessee, which still has a really good chance at the playoff, to overtime. And then they beat Arizona State a few weeks ago in overtime, who was a playoff team and won the Big 12. That's a really impressive job by Jeff Lebby and company. And it's just funny we mentioned, it's like, oh, this is why college football coaches get stressed, because we're like digging into it. We're like, this is actually like the numbers say this is a better team than you think. This is not last year's Mississippi State team. And it played out exactly like that. But Tennessee won. That's what really matters.
That's what really matters. And so I looked back. The Pitt game in 21, we lost 41-34. And then the overtime game in 22, we won 34-27. And so they were both the same story right there. I'm going to go ahead and talk about my experience of the end of the game briefly so that we're not interrupting a later segment. And then we'll get into deeper conversation, our grades, etc. We're sitting there watching the game. This is obviously a tense one. It's back and forth. I do think it's one of those games that we kept just waiting for us to get up by 2 scores, and it just never happened.
100%, yes.
Yeah, it was just like, just get up by 2 scores, and they're gonna not convert on a 4th down, and we're gonna be able to maybe finally get downhill a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It just never happened. It just wasn't one of those games, and so just that little stuff kept happening, keeps happening. With about, I think right after Joey had the run on the final drive, where it became like, what are we doing on this final drive, which we're going to talk about.
We will, yes.
Yes. We're all sitting there watching. We're still freaking out. Our internet cuts out completely. Just goes. And my wife is running over and unplugging and plugging things back in, and we're kind of trying to be patient with it, but really, really want to test it again. I am suddenly like pulling it up on my phone and holding it out for everyone who was there to watch, and it's like choppy and blurry. And so we watched the very end of regulation, which was silly, but then the overtime on like choppy, no Wi-Fi, YouTube TV, that it got us there. But for example, my experience of the Bishop touchdown was, crap, this thing's not loading. And then the very next frame I got was the score's different in Mississippi State has the ball.
Meanwhile, you're trying to watch the game on your phone, and I'm texting you WTF. And that's the nice version, about 15 times at the end of that drive.
I will say, if we ever got an inkling to record on a Saturday night or on a Sunday, this would not be a family-friendly podcast.
It would not have been. We would definitely have to turn off the censor or get the censors ready.
If we ever do something where we go live or something,
yeah, we're just warning people.
It's just a different conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be different, and that's how it was. I was so frustrated Saturday, Daniel. I thought after the muff punt, I'm like, I'm already annoyed. I am already pissed off. I'm already like telling the dog to be quiet because he's barking. I'm just like, this is going to be a bad 3 hours. And I'm like, after they went up 10-3, I'm like, this game's over. They're going to blow it. This is a classic Heupel road game. And I don't understand it because I love Josh Heupel and he's done great. And I don't understand why we can't do this. And they kept battling and they kept battling. And Tyree West and Joshua Josephs almost single-handedly, and Colton Hood willed that team to victory with some Joey Brazel magic. And I'll just say it. I don't know if Mississippi State's going to win 9 games. I don't think they are. That's definitely a bowl team. They're going to win some SEC games. And I think this could be something we look back on and go, this game was the turning point for the season in a very positive way. Because that's a game that a lot of past Tennessee teams will lose. And we haven't gone to grades yet. But it should be mentioned, for the first time since, I would say, 2004, Tennessee can play a C game on a road SEC opponent and win. And that is a huge leap from where the program has been in the past.
I was on my commute, and I was just thinking about, like, what went wrong, what went right kind of thing, thinking about the podcast. And I think 2 things stand out to me. One, we have a quarterback who's willing to get his butt kicked to make some stuff happen. We'll talk about the positive and negative of that. But we actually are getting to a point where we have the talent, the fortitude of talent, to go down there and just hang in no matter what. And so all these times that we wonder, like, golly, so-and-so team did not even play well and they hung in and came back and won, it's because they have so much talent. Mm-hmm. And we are getting to a point where that is a possibility. When you are in a game like this and you're about to go into a final drive and like it is pure gut check time, and your right tackle who's played great all season is suddenly hurt, and you bring a 5-star off the bench who clears bodies on multiple different plays, that's the kind of roster talent that allows you to go play a C game on the road and have a chance.
Or your defensive line, nobody played more than 50 snaps because you're too deep every spot in the defensive line.
Yeah.
And you can have guys fresh in the fourth quarter to make a real impact on the game and keep Joshua Joseph fresh and Tyree West fresh and Bailey and Eason. And I believe Bailey was the one that got the tip, if I'm not mistaken, on the final play. And, you know, they're going to get Hobbs back, and that's going to even make it better. So I think it's okay that Tennessee out-talented a team and they didn't play well and won in the SEC. You don't want to say that about UAB. You don't want to do that. But against a road, and when I did my volnation.com basketball reports, game reviews a long time ago, the first point I would always make with a road SEC win was you are not allowed to complain about a road SEC win. That is how I would say we should approach this, except for the end of game fourth quarter drive, which is all on the coach. We will get there. But that is kind of how I would view this, is like, yeah, things have to improve. There are weaknesses. The turnovers are killing us. Absolutely. But you can't take anything negative from the program overall after this game.
Yeah, one of our after we do our grades, after we have some specific conversations about the biggest plays of the game, we're going to talk. We're heading to the bye, and so we're going to talk about what has us concerned moving forward, like just what can we not get out of our minds moving forward, and so we'll get more into some of the long-term stuff. I think we jump into the grades. I'm going to start with the offense. I am sitting at an 80 overall for the offense. Here's my explanation, and it's brief. It's not even meant to be super, super negative perception. We did a mix of the two things I'm about to say instead of having both humming at once. There were some moments that felt like great play calling, and we would let down a little bit on the execution. And then there were some moments that felt like just okay play calling, not bad, not wacky, but just okay play calling, and we executed like crazy. It was probably the top game all season where I had multiple moments watching back tape and saying, like, we just out executed them on that play. And I have a couple specific examples. We'll get into them. I'm not going to run through play by play right now, but the feeling I had was there are moments where we actually have the ability to just line up and out execute and out tough some people with our offense. It's not always working, and that's an important conversation we'll have. But there are times where it does. And so that gives me some promise, but I landed at an 80. It's related to the turnovers, and I know that affected your grade as well.
Yeah, I went with an 82. Two turnovers again. And we are now to the point where can Joey Aguilar throw a normal interception? Like segment of the season. Because every single one, it was like, okay, yeah, it could have been a little better throw, but like overall wasn't his, like, you can't place all the blame on him. I can't give an A or a higher grade for a couple of reasons. One is we had 2 defensive touchdowns that saved our bacon. And Tennessee, before overtime, had 12 drives and only scored on 4 of them. So that's not great. That's not exactly what you want. I know there's a missed field goal in there. There's 2 turnovers. One of those is special teams error. Get all that. But still, you got to clean that up. They did have a 43% success rate, which is 57th percentile. That's an SEC game. A lot of teams playing cupcakes still in September, so that's good. They were 86th percentile EPA per play, so they were hitting them when outside of turnovers. Their drop back numbers were great. Lots of explosives, which helped. The drops were bad. I mean, just bad. Matthews had the worst drop, I would argue, in Tennessee history, at least since I started watching in 2001. And I'm probably over-exaggerating, but I cannot remember a more heinous one, only topped by Thompson dropping his on Mississippi State. So it canceled each other out, but it still haunts me. They got slaughtered on third down. They went 5 of 14. That just can't happen. You're going to lose a lot of games like that. And two of those, they got saved because they had fourth down conversions. Run game was fine on paper, but only 41% success rate. And before Bishop's run on designed runs, they were 28 attempts for 116 yards. That is not Josh Heupel numbers. Overall, though, I thought the O-line was fine. They weren't perfect. Did enough. They were really good pass blocking. Now, I think part of that is Mississippi State does not have dudes that can get to the passer. We talked about that last week, but they did very well pass block. Did a great job on the last drive to score. A lot of great individual plays. You talked about Sanders. The Staley third down might be one of those small plays you think, what happens if he doesn't get that? Joey was
after the game he had.
That is a great point. Huge play by him. It was very positive too on social media. I know that doesn't mean a lot, but it still means a little something how much he was praising Mike and Chris after the game. Shout out to Brazel. Like he's going to be number one wide receiver taken. Like he just is at this point. It's early and we'll have to see what the measurables are, but I mean the way he's playing, there's not been a better wide receiver outside of Jeremiah Smith, and some of his is just quarterback issues. I mean, he's been so good. That fourth down catch, NFL play by him. The offense was a little too start and stop. Turnovers don't help. You're probably talking a different game if you take away the awful Chris Brazel offensive pass interference call. And I made this joke to you. If they called that on Randy Moss, he would not be in the Hall of Fame. Like, that is how egregious. I mean, I still can't get over it. I have not even by the closest ref either. It's just unbelievable that stupid Alabama grad David Smith somehow is always in the middle of these types. But that's another story. It was so bad, that offensive pass interference. You're dying to say something. Go for it.
I can whine. This is self-awareness. I can whine about pass interference with the best of them. Like, I definitely whine about it too much. I think just like over the years of seeing who's allowed to be physical and who's not really grates on me. And we had one, not ticky-tack. There was a jersey grab on a PI that was called on our defense. But this one was just a guy placing hands on someone, and the other guy was not athletic enough to do the thing he was trying to do, and he fell down. And again, like, if the rule for OPI, like you said, if the rule for OPI is you placed two hands on someone, we can forget it as far as completions go. We can forget it. And especially for excuse me, a sport that has kind of just decided that the receiver can fight for some position. It was just a guy who was bigger and more athletic and had the spot. And so, again, like, I think there was questions about a play similar in the Georgia game. So maybe it was really on the ref's radar and he wanted to show off his arm throwing that flag. I don't know. But I just hope that doesn't become a pattern, because Brazel has done such a better job of fighting for the ball instead of just fading away for catches. I hope he immediately ran over to Heupel to talk about it. And I have a feeling Heupel was saying, don't change anything. Keep doing what you're doing.
There were some people that were like, hey, he put his hands on him. You can put your hands in college on the pass catcher and on the defender. You can do either or. You just can't pull, grab, chop, right? Like, that's the thing. It's okay to put your hands in. We're not on video, but put your hands up, kind of position yourself, and then jump. And that's what he did. It's a terrible call. And the other point I was going to make, if Matthews catches that for a touchdown, Tennessee probably wins by 2 scores. Now, Mississippi State can say the same thing.
Yes, they had a couple too, but we left we could say this with any like, oh, that almost went for a touchdown, but there were 4 plays that I think on tape, and I'm including the Chris Brazzell OPI. There were 4 plays that on tape were touchdowns if one person gets blocked or if we just catch the football.
Matthews
And
on that
Matthews
huge drive
screen,
too.
There's a play from Starr. So we'll talk about some specific plays in a little bit, but it's like we said at the beginning, we just couldn't get 2 scores up. We couldn't get ahead by 13. And that's why it becomes a nail biter. But last year, and this is a Heupel quote too, but we were all feeling it. Last year said Heupel said, we're just taking turns. One play it's the O-line, one play it's the receiver, one play it's the quarterback. We're taking turns slightly missing. Last year when we were taking turns, there were some games where it was like we had 13 points. Mm-hmm. This year, when we were taking turns, we still are putting up some numbers and some big plays and some really impressive yardage. And so I'm taking some solace in that.
The lack of consistency on Saturday doesn't overall scare me. 1, because just the offense in general. 2, Joey has shown he's a good enough quarterback at this point in the season that I'm not as concerned as I did. Was the play scheme is different. The 12 personnel that they have done, the over the middle stuff, some of the NFL routes they incorporated have made me not as concerned. And the fact that I'm still hanging on to that Georgia performance where the offense was fantastic. The advanced numbers paint a different story in a positive light, which makes sense because turnovers, they're deadly, but they're just one play. So if you have 3 bad turnovers, but you're good like 85% rest of the game, the advanced numbers are going to like you. And they were only able to run 68 scrimmage plays because Mississippi State kept converting on 3rd down over and over again. And Tennessee did have a lot of explosives. They got 1 taken away. They dropped 1. So I'm slightly concerned about the inconsistencies in the run game. The 3 games we've played against P4 competition, that has shown up. But overall, I'm not long-term thinking this is going to cost us. But I went with an 82 overall for the offense, just because 2 turnovers, the drops, the lack of consistent push with the run game. But Aguilar I thought, played really well. Brazzell's great. Offensive line protected him. So still a B for me.
I want to have a longer conversation about the run game when we get to what our concerns are for the rest of the season. And so we'll get there. The shout out I want to give to Joey is, I'm thinking specifically about that final drive, the play where he's getting tackled from behind and he finds Matthews. And Matthews seemingly jumped way too early to try to catch the ball. And he had to wait for it to come down and make the grab. And so it was a good job hanging in there from him and making sure he came down with it. But Joey's willingness to hang in is so different from what we experienced a year ago.
Yes.
The play from our own 4 where we hit Matthews, the play on the final drive where he finds just a tiny bit of space and gets it over the corner's head and gets it to Matthews. Even a couple plays where he ended up flailing the ball, but he did hang in for a second. His willingness to like just try to make a play. Now there's some negatives, but his willingness to try and make a play won us the football game. Other things too, we'll talk about it, but that final drive does not happen with the way that our quarterback last year responded to any changes in the pocket.
2 plays stuck out. The one to Staley on 3rd down, where he's basically dead to rights and somehow is able to get out. That play does not happen with the previous 2 quarterbacks for sure. Like, that was an impressive play. The Brazzell one was not a great throw, but he was a little off platform and he got it to him. Like, hey, sometimes it's just, can you put it in your first round wide receiver's hands? Like, that's super important. And then he made a really other nice throw to Matthews that was a little off script as well. That ability, and I'm not saying he's going to be, I don't think he's getting drafted. Maybe 7th round if he's lucky. It's incredible having a guy that can play a little off schedule, and God knows he did it a lot last year at Appalachian State.
Yes, he did.
Completely has changed the offense. Now, some of it they have incorporated scheme-wise. I will say. It's not all just Joey off platform. But the ability for Joey to not only play off platform and not go into a shell when something bad happens, which seems so simple at the quarterback position, but really isn't. There's only a few guys in college football right now that can do it. Has completely made this offense go from sputtering to elite.
And he's doing that without a run game that's just crushing people.
100%. Like this
is doing that.
The run game's fine, but it's not.
Yes,
it's not last year.
This is a true drop back setting. You are going to have to work through some progressions, and I have not. Part of this is I don't have every single play clocked in my head, but the instances of the quarterback feeling pressure from anywhere and suddenly being in a 3-point, like a defensive stance with no ability to throw the football has not happened this year. And frankly, if it would have happened, something else would have gotten home for a sack or whatever else, and things could look very different right now if he had gone into shell mode and throwaway mode and things like that. I know that we'll come back to some specific plays, and I think some of those will involve shout-outs to the offense. And so I want to shift to our defensive rating and get into the details, and I think the good and the bad there. I will kick it off and then kind of let you fill in the details, and we'll get into them. Defensive rating is a 94 overall. That is the highest grade that I've given all year.
Mm-hmm.
It is the reason we won the football game, in my opinion. Without what the D-line did, the secondary played great, and I think the secondary is trajectory, arrow pointing up. Without what the D-line did, I don't think we win the game. The part of the reason it's a 94, Fluff Bothwell popped off. You know what you and I said last week? We said Fluff Bothwell is going to pop off. Like, he was just going to get his yardage. He was just going to get his money. He's good. And they have a pretty good run game. And so his numbers don't surprise me that much. I'm actually, frankly, a little bit surprised the backup was held in check as much as he was. From the very first drive of the game, Dominic Bailey, opening drive sack on third down. It was the exact start we wanted. On that very same play, as Bailey is making the tackle, Joseph's, I don't know even how, as that quarterback is being tackled, Joseph's is throwing the tackle, the right tackle, onto the pile. Like, he's just bringing an offensive tackle to the pile of the quarterback. Like, it was a stunt, and Bailey got home, and then Joseph's came in. They were ready. And so I think, like, that happening on the opening drive, and then the other moments they had throughout the game, getting into the end zone twice, that dropped punt changed everything, changed the feel, changed the scores we gave up, etc. That opening drive is like, you could not have painted a better picture. A non-Joseph's guy getting a sack like that on the first play, and then the other pop moments they had throughout the game, it's the highest grade I've given all year, even if we gave up some stuff in the run game.
That drop punt, it's baseball playoff season. Reminds me of when your pitcher
blood pressure.
Yeah, not great as a Tigers fan.
I have some advice on that front. If you want to just not worry about it, just be a Nationals fan like me.
or a Braves fan this year.
You'll never have to worry about it.
But it's like when your starting pitcher gives up a two-run home run in the first inning to the road team. You're just like, okay, it's not over, but like, oh God, this is going to be a nightmare the rest of the game. That's how that muff punt felt. I gave them an 89, which I think is my highest grade for them this year, if I'm not mistaken.
You had 91 for ETSU, but we both agreed that it was like a
that's like right, exactly. Yeah. The first thing that has to be said is Mississippi State had 3 scoring touchdowns from inside the opponent 30 or the Vols 30. That's going to be hard to keep them off the board. And so you're already just playing with a bad hand. When you take that out and consider they'd only allowed 13 points and 1 touchdown drive. That's actually pretty good. And Levy's a really good offensive coach. We know this. I mean, they put up points last year when the defense was theoretically better. The defensive line was eating Shapen alive. I mean, 5 sacks and Shapen averaged 6.2 yards per attempt. Like, that is absolutely eating them. Now, Thompson dropping that pass, hey, that's a break. They also got a break. So it is what it is. I thought the pass defense was fantastic overall. Corners by far their best game. All four, because McMurray plays a star. Absolutely. Mississippi State only had 11 successful pass plays. That's 35%. That is awesome for SEC play. I don't care who you're playing, unless it's Kentucky. That's pretty good. The defensive ends could not be stopped. Shapen had no chance. I mean, they were the tackles for them. And we mentioned backup left tackle. They cooked him all game. Why I didn't go with an A, 24 successful runs for Mississippi State. That's 52%. That can't happen. Even with how well Bothwell and Booth are, that was frustrating. I do not understand what our linebackers do sometimes. Now, Carter was great, so I want to make sure this was his best game of all. They kept running, and it's not even a counter, Daniel. I don't even know what to call it. They kept running this play where the defensive or the offensive tackles crushed the defensive end in and just made it a rugby pile. And then the back would take 2 steps, and then he'd run off tackle. It was like a counter, but nobody pulled, so it wasn't a counter. And our linebackers were like, God, I don't know what's going on. They were just as confused as I was because they never got over there. And they would just run it to the opposite side of wherever the star was. And Thielander and Spillman and Turrentine and Farouk acted like they'd not seen a run play break outside the hash marks ever. So that was incredibly frustrating. Finally, they cleaned that up in the fourth quarter. They stopped that. I think they started going a little more to that wide 9, played Josephs and West out a little bit. And Carter, I also a couple times was like, fine, I will do it. You just contribute to the pile. I will clean it up. If they could the spine of the defense, what I mean by the spine, defensive tackles, linebackers, safeties. If they were average, I would think we'd have an elite defense. The safeties were all day today, or all game Saturday, just out of position. Farouk, even when he was in position, missed 3 bad tackles. He did play better in the second half. But the problem overall is third down. That's the biggest thing. Only 42%, you tell me, Zach. That's not bad. 8 total conversions. They had 2 fourth down conversions. One's not on them, the punt fake. I will get to special teams in a few minutes. But part of the issue is there's not enough third and long. Too many 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. And that makes sense when you consider Mississippi State was successful in the run game. Their successful runs. Their longest run was 20, which isn't that bad, but if you're getting 4 to 6 yards a pop, you're going to have success. So I went with a B plus an 89 because of those things. But overall, much improvement from the Georgia game. That's good to see. And Tennessee has seemed to have found Bailey inside, Weston Josephs or Herring on the outside, and then let Eason or let Robinson or whoever kind of muddy up the middle, try and take a couple blocks, maybe run a stunt, and get pressure with 4. Banks did not blitz this game. This was not the Georgia game plan. And I would say I would not be shocked if we look back at this and we go, wow, they only held Mississippi State to 34, and really it was only 13 because Mississippi State had short field on 3 of those. So I'm happy with it. I know I got negative at the end, but the playmakers showed up. Carter was fantastic. That was his best game. Redmond really did a good job on his side. Hood's going to get All-American honors at this point. And Jermon McCoy and Devin Hobbs are coming back. And that's going to help big time.
That is, I mean, the way we do our D-line, there's almost not starters besides Joseph. But that's a starting interior defensive lineman. And frankly, one of the best cornerbacks in the country that we've just been playing without. I mean, the fact that there's many, many reasons to believe that the trajectory is up helps me a little bit. There are way too many times where let me say this, the number I see the most, literally the numeral that I see the most when we are playing defense is 2, because I see T-Landers back and I see Turrentine's back every play. 22 and 2, just running after outside runs. There was one, I think it was a Bothwell TD, where they had this slow developing run play. Bothwell's super patient. He finds the lane outside, and Turrentine is tackling the linebacker and then just jogging towards the pylon as he scores. And a couple of those short fields, we'll talk about like the Joey turnovers of it all, but a couple of those short fields, especially maybe the second interception, they had the ball and it was like they were within the 30. And I was like, oh, they're going to score. Like, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not just trying to throw my hands up, but like, we do not have the ability to stop them right now. They're too good at running the ball right now. And so they're going to find a way to score. Now, their success in the passing game was the passes were a little more slow developing than I expected. And I guess when you're running those kind of switch routes, you have to let it develop. But Shapen, was very disciplined in letting it develop. As in, you could tell he was doing half field reads. And so Shapen is doing these half field reads, and he's staring down that half of the field, and he just got his block knocked off a couple of times. And we all saw it, but the way that our corners play physical, and in coverage, the safeties are not a massive whoa like they are in the run game. But the way our corners play coverage and play physical, for Shapen, all it took was slightly throwing off some of those routes, and he was a sitting duck, man.
Yeah, he was.
And you called it last week. I mean, you called out their tackles. You said if there's a spot where we could be successful, it is the way we rush against the tackles they have. And I mean, it popped from the jump, and then it popped for probably the biggest play of the game, which was Joseph's.
I mean, Tennessee leads the country in sacks. That's kind
crazy,
of important.
Man.
I mean, and they got after it at Georgia. Some of that was blitz aided, but a lot of it was the defensive lines winning one-on-one. And I got to give them massive props for the amount of havoc plays they were consistently making. They had 5 sacks, 7 stuffed runs. So that's runs that were 0 or negative yards. And I think 3 of those were in the fourth quarter alone. They forced a pick and a fumble that got them 14 points. And I will say, I thought schematically we were better against Georgia, which 2 completely different offenses, so you kind of have to be. But I did that. I thought that was important. They mixed coverages better. I'd like to see a little more toughness in the red zone defensively. 79% of their red zone plays, Mississippi State, were successful. Now, I don't think that includes the overtime. So it's a little bit lower because they shut them down on those 4 plays, but got to clean that up. You'd like to at least, could you make that 13 instead of 21 points with the turnovers? And that might be asking a little bit much, but I'd like to at least try and do that.
And if you can hold up a little bit, the red zone was just I think part of it comes down to the off linebacker, et cetera. But the red zone was just they were so successful that there was no opportunity for the D-line to eat the way they were eating.
True. It shortened the field, yeah. Yeah,
they shortened the field. The linebackers are in the spotlight. And so you're just not able to get the pressure. The other person that they didn't pop on the stat sheet as much, but they seem to be right near the ball on so many different plays in a way that I was surprised they even played this much. And I haven't looked at the participation report, but I'll tell you who's there and who knows what it means when Hobbs comes back. But Isaiah Campbell's been playing a lot. He was a highly touted recruit. He's a big dude. He kind of fits that, can play inside and outside prototype that we clearly like on the defensive line. He was involved in, again, he wasn't in the sack numbers, but he has been playing a lot. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see him start to pop a little bit throughout the season. You wanted to talk a little bit about special teams, which informed your overall grade for the game.
Yeah. When I talked earlier at the beginning, people might be saying, Zach, you gave Tennessee a C, but your grades were 82 and 89. That should be a B. That's because special teams is FF minus minus minus. That was a absolute disaster from special teams. Cannot stress how bad it was overall from every unit, Daniel. It wasn't even when they muffed a punt. They made a bad kickoff decision. They gave up kickoffs. Other than punts themselves, I don't remember Mississippi State having a big punt return. Every unit was bad. Just absolutely horrific. And it almost cost them. And I think Gilbert's miss was 47, maybe 48.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a little nervous. And I do not look. I know Boo had a couple scares the last couple weeks. That decision, whoever made it, to put Braylon Staley there, and I said, I think I texted you, Staley never returned a punt. That's not true. He returned one, I think, against Syracuse, because Boo did not was not on punt return.
Yeah.
Whoever made that decision, just you got to give me. You're a professor. You need a 5-page paper on what the decision process was there. So dumb, and it just bad special teams. And Evan Crabtree, this is his first college football, like legitimate college football job. And I know Ecker left, and I think that had more to do with like family and stuff. Like I'm just saying that's got to be looked at. Like that cannot. Thank God for the bye week, because they better be working on that on all aspects, because that was a travesty.
The play, I think it might have been 2 plays after the fake punt, was the Tyree.
I didn't even mention the fake punt.
I know. The fake punt was just like, it became punt return right for them. It was so easy. And then again, like 1 or 2 plays later was their West sack and the Joseph's return. And so it got washed away. But Staley's really, really good at playing wide receiver. He doesn't need to be back there.
No.
He doesn't. And I'm glad they went back to him. He had massive plays throughout the game. He wasn't dead in the water. Props to him for it, for recovering from that error. But I don't necessarily think I understand the logic of switching things up in that moment. Like, dance with the one who brung you at a certain point. And you have someone who is a really good punt returner, even if they're a little scary.
Mississippi State had a 67-yard punt, Daniel.
Yeah.
67 yards in 2025. It was so bad. I mean,
we were working against ourselves from a special teams perspective.
And this is our fault because we started late. Had we been doing this, if we restarted the pod back in March, we would have brought up Eckler leaving. Like, that would have been a talking point. But since we started like 10 days before the season, it just didn't get brought up. I am officially concerned after that game, just overall. So other than Turbeville kicking it through the end zone, there is not a group that I am liking right now. Even Ross will have his moments where you're like, dude, what are you doing? Why is that a 23-yard punt? It didn't in the Mississippi State game, but it's just, man, that was bad. But the defense bailed him out. So I'm hoping that's a one-game aberration. It's never been a problem under Heupel, but when your special teams coach leaves, that was here for 4 years, and then the 5th game of the year, you have to give an F- to special teams, that becomes a problem.
It's on our radar officially. It won't be the last time that something happens with it, I'm afraid. But hopefully some positive stuff happens too. We're gonna insert, I think, a mild gimmick here. I'm okay calling it a gimmick. There were so many big moments in this game and so many pop plays. that we want to try and talk about more plays specifically. We like looking at the overview, we like looking at the big picture, but we want to get into some of the process of how we got there. So Zach and I, in just a second, are going to go back and forth on drafting our favorite plays of the game. Now, with one caveat, we are setting aside the 2 defensive touchdowns and Bishop's game-winning TD run, essentially to just like not have the first 3 picks predetermined. And maybe those wouldn't have ended up as the first 3 picks, but on those 3 plays, the 2 defensive touchdowns and then the Bishop game-winning touchdown run, which obviously were massive if we're talking about, how they affected the likelihood of winning. Is there anything kind of left on your mind about those plays that you want to point out? Or is it just like, thank goodness for them bailing us out?
The Bishop run was beautiful blocking by Hurd and by Jack Van Dorselier. And shout out JVD on that play. Man. That is a really tough spot for a freshman. Yes. And kicked ass on his block. And Hurd that when he puts his film out for NFL scouts, and it's probably going to be this year, that's going to be one of the plays he's going to show. That was fantastic. So I wanted to shout out those 2 guys specifically on that run. And then I would just say Tyree West is such a beast. He's in one of my other ones, but I mean, he's wrecking games.
I love it. I'm gonna add on to your JVD point. That dude's a true freshman. You can see how important 12 personnel is to this offense because we still used it even without Davis this game. He fit up on that run and sealed that for Bishop, and obviously Hurd did his job as well. That was not him finding a defensive back to block. That was not him finding a light-footed safety / linebacker to block. That was him fitting up on Brandon Jennings, their 6'3", 250 jack linebacker, who he wasn't wrecking stuff in pass rush, but he had been a problem in the run game all night. Like he had really killed our momentum in the run game all night. And then who knows if they saw something and that's why they called it, or if they were just trying to have a run to Bishop to get the drive started. But the way they blocked on that play, Hurd and JVD, it seriously made me think that they said, if you can set your edges here, this is going to be a touchdown. And Bishop broke one arm tackle and the ball game was over. It was so pretty. For those listening, it is worth going back and watching. They put a ton of angles out on social media. Watch Hurd, watch JVD, and just enjoy it because that was one of the plays for me that was play calling was fine. Execution was chef's kiss beautiful for sure.
It was absolutely nice to see. So I had 3 plays. The first one was the Matthews screen for 39 yards in the first quarter. That got them out of really bad position after the Braylon Staley decided that 67-yard punts are fun to watch. So you just forget how great of an athlete Mike is because Tennessee's dialed back the screens, which I am happy with. I'm not complaining about. It's still important, but it's not the offense like it was last year. But it makes me want to see Matthews a little bit more. And a lot of teams don't run man on us, so that's part of it. But I really want to see him just cook some DBs on like a curl route on a slant because, man, he has a motor. And you just forget about it because of the offense we run, which is fine. But that was real. I really liked that. That was a great play.
He had 6 for 118. He dropped a 70-yard touchdown, and he was a tiny bit of burst and a broken tackle away from another 96-yard touchdown.
And he's just 20 years old. So he's got so much room to grow, and he's gotten better. That's what I like to see, despite that heinous drop.
My first pick is the Brazel 4th down catch on the game-tying drive. I was a mess during that play. And we talked about it on the preview pod. There are moments where Brazel and Joey just play a little bit of buddy ball and find each other. And this was a moment where you could tell that's who Joey was looking for. The pass is behind him. The pass gets juggled. He's in traffic. It was beautiful. It was such a nice job that, again, it's just like big-time players make big plays. I mean, it was it was props to him. It wasn't some beautiful design. It was just, we need a first down and we're going to Brazil.
My next play, that was an NFL play too. Like not many guys are able to make that play with his size and his length and his concentration. My next one was the Staley one that we did talk about on third down. One, Joey making that play off platform, breaking with contain being broken and making something happen just to put them in a 4th and short potentially was so huge. That was massive, massive play there. It was after the false start that ruined a 3rd and 1 after Sanders jumped a little early. And then the effort by Staley,
amazing,
who's 5'11", 190, to just understand the situation, not get fancy. How many wide receivers have we seen try and do some NCAA 06 playmaker move to get the first? And he didn't. He just put his head down and got it. That was really nice to see. It's something that they haven't been able to do. And in that spot was great. And the fact that that's a confidence builder for Staley. They need him. Wide receiver depth right now is a disaster. They need all 3 guys at the top of their game constantly. That was really, really good to see.
There was a play when we played Florida last season in overtime in Neyland. There was a play to the right sideline in overtime. I think it was to Brazil that he caught it and he fought forward like that. And he got us extra yardage. I don't know if he got us first, but he got us extra yardage. And that set us up to run in for the game-winning touchdown. It reminded me a lot of that play. My second play was the design screen/swing to Star Thomas, a pass to Star Thomas. This was 4th and 2, so we were going for it on 4th down. It was in the second quarter. We were at the 50-yard line. They blitzed. They basically ran engage 8 against us. And Star, and this is one of the things we like about him, he was so patient. He leaked out instead of sprinting out and getting off his mark because Joey was about to feel pressure and Joey needed to know that he had him in that spot and not have to find him. He leaks out. Joey finds him right away in rhythm. This play should have been a touchdown. This was one of those where Heupel had him. Heupel had him. It was a 4th down. He knew they were going to bring pressure. He had him. And again, if you're the type where you're going back and you're scrubbing through the game, keep an eye on this play. Matthews was so excited that he was the decoy and that he was part of the play that he didn't turn around in time and block his guy, and that's the guy who tackled Star. If Matthew just gets a hand on that guy, Star breaks one tackle and he's gone down the sideline. It's a touchdown in 2 minutes.
I'm very proud when we did our breakdown of running backs, and I said Star makes the first guy miss.
Dude,
every time I hit that on the head. that has been my scouting of the year. It is what it is with the carries. He did not have his best game at Mississippi State. Just glad Heupel went for it on 4th down. That was the big thing. That was nice to see. The third one I had was West's non-touchdown sack.
Yes.
Man, he's not going to be a first-round pick.
No.
He's
not the bendy guy that gets drafted in the first round.
No. That was a first round pick move, and they showed the all 22 version of that. Whew, man, did he just absolutely annihilate that left tackle. That guy had no chance. And West is going to be, that's a guy I think you're going to be like, he's still in the NFL in year 8. Like, man, he's still playing and getting 30 snaps. Like, he's been awesome this year. And I know this is weird. I don't know if it's the number 42. It just looks cool. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I've liked him ever since I saw him as a freshman. And he steadily has gotten better every year with Garner. He might be my favorite ball right now. Just the way he plays tenaciously. And I've been complaining about the snap count with him, but then I think about how he's able to play his guts out every play because he knows he's going to get 30 snaps because they're so keen on keeping everyone fresh that he's a joy to watch. And he's going to get drafted. Like, that's a guy that Garner can point to a recruit and be like, hey, I got this guy drafted and this is how we did the plan.
And he, like I said, like another young defensive lineman, Campbell, who's playing a lot. Like, we're building that foundation of a roster where it's like, oh, we got more dudes coming, y'all. You better buckle up. My last play, and I actually am surprised we didn't end up taking each other's at all, because this wasn't planned. Let's choose 3 unique ones. These were just our picks. My last play was first quarter from our own 4, Joey deep down the middle to Matthews. The patience that Joey showed on that play, he like double pumps when there's pressure in his face, and he still throws a beam to Matthews. We weren't seeing that in recent quarterback play. The other thing that it says to me about the offense, and we want some parts to come together a little bit more, but when this offense is in attack mode within their own 20, like when they have bad field position, but they're still in attack mode, that's when you know Heupel trusts his quarterback. He's not pitter-pattering around. He's not running a rinky-dink little run and he's ready to punt and hope field position gets flipped. He says, no, we're in attack mode here. And that was one of the ones that I think slightly different angle, slightly different leading of him, one broken tackle, and Matthews is gone for essentially a full field touchdown. And so the combination of the throw, Matthews looking it in, but the patience and the attack mode really popped for me on that play.
It is nice seeing the 21-22 offense again. It is not the exact same thing, but it is nice knowing we're going to get the ball and I like our chances to score, which we could not say the last 2 years.
I hate to make this comparison because it's a completely different scenario. It's a completely different quarterback. It's a completely different player. But the play that we ran that I just mentioned is the play that we ran Hooker to Hyatt against Alabama, where the famous picture comes from was Hyatt running into the orange. That's the play. And so it's all it is one broken tackle and you slip that one and you're gone because we're in attack mode like that. We're going to do that more. Obviously, we're not going to do it during the bye week, but we're going to do that more where we try to point out specific plays that highlight the big picture stuff that we're either worried about or excited about. Speaking of worry, I do think at the bye week...
Is it time?
It's time to talk about our biggest concern moving forward. And I want us to try to be not list-like, as in not 7 things each, but what is the actual thing that you're like, this is what's going to break an important game for us?
What the hell happened at the end of the fourth quarter? Daniel.
Are you suggesting
Daniel Baker.
This didn't need to go into overtime?
What the hell was that? I cannot remember, other than 2015 against Florida, a worse clock situation end of game offensively. So Derek Dooley, you survived this conversation from a Tennessee football coach. We were discussing it and walking through it and working through it like a math problem before the podcast to see if we missed something, and we left even more dumb.
We started off with a run. No problem. We didn't snap the ball again for 35 seconds. This was not
and the ball was at the 29.
And by the way, almost threw for 400 yards on them. Like, it's not...
We have a 60-year cornerback.
I don't know. I almost would have understood it if we did that and then it was like we ran the clock out. But then we threw a first down to Kitzelman, and then we took a timeout and took our time again. And then Joey ran for 9 and busted a guy at the end of the run, and then we paused again. Like, it was like, you got to decide one way or the other.
Hold on. You said they took a timeout after Kitzelman. They did not, actually. They took it after the 9-yard run by Joey. God. They had 3 timeouts. Okay, so Daniel. You do a great job if you're Heupel. You keep all 3 of your timeouts, which he will use them too if he doesn't like something. So that's good. They went in with 1. They went in trying to score with 1 timeout after they had crossed midfield. No sense. None. And then they call the timeout. Okay? And they have an incomplete pass. Okay? 18 seconds. It is 3rd and 1 at the Mississippi State 49. 2 timeouts. It is completely understandable
to get a first down.
to worry about getting the first down. Because now if you incomplete pass, it is a 4th and 1 at midfield, 13 seconds. Maybe they try and get a Hail Mary. It happens, okay? I completely understand that. They run the ball. I'm not going to criticize the run, even though that's probably not the right call. But I get it. Right there, 13 seconds, which clock operator, that maybe should have been 14, whatever. Okay. 13 seconds. You immediately go timeout, one more play, and then we try and line up to get a field goal with that timeout. For reasons that are still unexplained, they try and run another play. And Joey, and I'm not blaming him, does not do the smart thing and tries to make a play. And they end up with 4 seconds and call a timeout on a dead clock.
Yes.
And run a Hail Mary from the 44, which, not that I think Max Gilbert has really any chance to hit that. He's got a leg. He's got enough of a leg. I would be willing to take a chance. I do not understand. I understand that. Let me clarify. I understand that college football and football in general is now about making sure the other team does not have the ball because of how good 2-minute offenses have become. We see this in the NFL all the time. I totally understand and get it. I do. What Heupel is doing is literally just throwing a grenade for no reason. Hey, Josh, we don't need the grenade here. Josh's like, I already pulled it. What do you want me to do with it? And just waving it around. Just I got a grenade. Does anybody want this grenade? The pin's already pulled. And everyone's like, this is a friendly, this is a drill. We're not actually in fire. It was so infuriating. And what pisses me off is Josh is so smart, Daniel. He's a good coach. And this is the second year in a row we've had something stupid like this. It happened last year against Arkansas. They let 35 seconds roll by. And they needed a touchdown in that game. They just needed a field goal here. It made no sense, man. And the way that the defense was eating, I would, even if you give them the ball back, I'm trusting my defensive line. Go ahead, try and throw 3 times with Blake Shapen and how that defensive line was eating. Be my guest. We might actually get a pick 6 again. It was so dumb. Unbelievable.
The part of it that drives me most crazy, and I said this before the pod when we were running back through the timeline of it, the TikTok of it, that if the same exact situation had happened with 13 minutes to go in the third quarter, we would have been in attack mode, fully in attack mode.
Yep, 100%.
We would have, if they, on their opening drive of the second half, through incompletions and then we got the ball back, we would have gone and we would have run a different offense than what we ran on that drive. And it wasn't the Arkansas game last year where we had really not been able to get anything going. I mean, dude had thrown for 350 at that point. And so, I don't know. I mean, we have so much talent at the receiver position, especially relative to the DBs that we were facing, that it's make them stop you at a certain point. And so that funkiness as the bugaboo that could haunt us in a future game, especially if there are concerns about whether we trust the kicker and we shell up and make him kick a 49-yarder instead of getting more yardage and letting him kick a 32-yarder. That's the type of thing that can swing a game, and it almost did here. It's just
here's the other thing, and I'm incredulous, so I apologize for interrupting you. We don't have Adam Vinatieri as our kicker. Mm-hmm. If Gilbert had been 1999 Sebastian Janikowski, okay, I can understand slow playing it and make sure Mississippi State has 0 seconds to get the ball back. But the last 2 SEC games, Heupel's acting like his kicker is going to be automatic from anywhere within 55 yards. And it isn't the case. And here's the other thing. Gilbert just missed 2 weeks ago at home in a big spot from 43. Why are you acting like, oh, if we get a 49-yarder here on the road in the SEC, Max has got it? I'm glad you have that confidence in Max. I sure as hell don't right now. And that's not even saying he's a bad kicker. It's just what it is right now. He missed a 48-yarder earlier. Bad. Like, bad. Not like he hit the crossbar or it got blocked. Like, he flat out missed it off the foot immediately. That's what doesn't make sense. I am okay, like, slow playing a little bit, but Jesus, man, you have got to be smarter in that. You've got to tighten that up. If you try that against Bama, you're becoming a meme. He's lucky it bailed him out. He is lucky they were able to bail him out in overtime, because if they hadn't, obviously he's not getting fired, but there would be some serious questions about what he's doing. And I don't know if it's Josh or if he's got a time management person, whoever. If he does have a time management person, that person needs to be off staff immediately. I don't want any questions. I don't like calling for people's jobs in college, but that's just how it is. Like, that was so inexcusable, man. It cannot happen. And this is the second year in a row we've done this.
I just hope we don't see it again. I think we've actually had successful 2 minutes before the half. And so I just want it to look the same before the end of the
Where's
game.
the guy that called 2 perfect plays against Alabama in 22 with 13 seconds? You know what's sad? Josh would sit on the ball now. Like, Josh would just be like, we're going to run the ball in the first play. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little much. But still, it's just
was a little leak out screen, something we haven't seen all year, like a screen to a running back that we haven't seen all year that invites pressure and then is an explosive that could have gone for a touchdown. Like that, I just want the form and function of the offensive attack to look the same as we're trying to go down and win as it does when we're trying to add some points to the scoreboard before halftime. And I think it can. I think that's the reason that it frustrates me, is that I think it can. It doesn't worry me if we try to attack.
Here's the other thing. If you're so concerned about Joey putting the ball in the air, why is your most explosive back not on the field in these situations? That's just a lot. And it's not like Starr has fumbling issues. So you either need to trust the quarterback or put your best back or most explosive back on the field. He's not doing either. It makes zero sense, Daniel.
I just hope it's something we don't see again. But the situation is going to arise again. There's too many big games left on the schedule. The situation is going to arise again.
You better not do it against Florida.
I know. We're going to talk about that in a second. My biggest worry at this point, and this is going to be vague, but I'll explain it. I'm worried a little bit about the shortcomings that are very clear on tape, in my opinion. And there are a lot of coaches out there better than me at looking at tape. We can't run the ball up the middle. We can't do it. We have not done it. It's not that we're getting blown off the ball every time. We're just not blowing them off the ball every time. Maybe this could change as Sanders gets more involved. Sanders actually looked great in the plays that he was in.
I wonder if the right guard change, Perry inside, Sanders to right tackle, will make
Perry, Sanders, it could make a big difference. And so I'm excited to see that. Again, anyone who's going back and scrubbing through the game, we can talk about the false start if we want. I'd rather talk about the other plays. Sanders looked awesome.
Yeah,
and the play that tied the game up, we ran QB power to Sanders. And so there's some promise there. And he was excited to hit people, which I really like.
I am not Bill Callahan, who's one of the greatest offensive line coaches in the NFL the last 25 years. But that looks like a first-round pick, just physically. I didn't even have to see him play yet, and I'm like, good Lord, that is
he gets to the second level to block better than any lineman we have.
Yeah. Hey, just that pull he had to start the first play.
Shout out to Heupel for calling him pulling first play.
And I'm very dangerous to say this. Panay's soul from an 18-year-old.
Heupel had this kid in. This is his debut. He knows he's excited. He knows that he's going to be antsy. He said, okay, pull and hit somebody. That's good coaching. That's probably why Heupel's so popular, honestly. So there's some concerns on tape about how we can run the ball. In my opinion, there's some concerns on tape about how well we're finding the tight end in the pass game. it went from Kitzelman leaking out multiple times last year and being a big part of the pass game to he's just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And Georgia was able to squeeze because they have the best linebackers in the flipping country for the 10th year in a row. But Mississippi State was able to squeeze too. And the two Joey interceptions were just those linebackers squeezing on Kitts a little bit because they know that he's such a good big body target that's where Joey's going to look. And yes, Joey sailed a couple of those. Frankly, I think Joey and Kitts deserve some credit for getting up off the ground and making tackles on those because they did both times, and I want to give them props for that. But we need the moments where we, instead of throwing the ball away, we get to 3rd and 2 with the pass to Kitts, and people are squeezing on that so well. And so we need to find a way to break that tendency. We haven't really had a screen game pop yet. I'm not saying I want a million things in the screen game, but I want to see a little more creativity and success there. And so and then the final one is the way the linebackers fit up in the run game.
Yeah.
Which we've talked to death at this point. But those little things on tape, I have my thoughts on some of the coaches that are on our docket, but like they're going to see it. And this is a type of offense we know that if they squeeze on things and they get you off schedule, it can look a little different, especially on the road. And so there's two really big, talented road teams left, at least, and maybe 3, honestly. And so that's my worry, is that there's just some very glaring things on tape that can be attacked, and everybody has that, but couple of concerns on the O-line, couple concerns about how we can use 12 personnel to its fullest potential, and then the linebackers, and see if someone can fill the role beside Carter.
My concern, other than just that stupidity at the end of the fourth quarter, is the spine of the defense, the middle of the defense. And Tennessee doesn't have like a true middle linebacker, so I'm excluding Carter from this. It's the defensive tackles, the non-Carter linebackers, and the safeties. They just do not seem to get run fits very well right now. Hobbs might be able to fix some of this, and Moy getting back should also help. I think a Moy, Bailey, Easton, Hobbs rotation can eventually help out with some of this, but I am concerned about the spine of the back 7 really bad. And Turntine and Farouk just have not improved from game 1, and neither is T-Lander. And I'm to the point, you mentioned you're used to seeing the number 2. I know he might be 205 pounds, maybe. But I think it's time Spillman gets those snaps.
It can't look worse.
He at least is getting places, and yeah, he's going to get lost in the run game at times, but what I cannot stand is the half step slow. That should be a 2-yard. It ended up 9. That's the stuff that kills you, and that's the stuff that's killing them right now with the safeties and the linebackers.
With that in mind, we're looking at kind of the rest of our schedule, and we're going to do a little bit of, a scout of what's left on our schedule, an update on some of the future opponents that we have. I don't think we need to go game by game. I'm going to read out the rest of the schedule, but then just if there's a team you feel like you've learned something about, or if there's a team you kind of want to correct the public opinion about, that's kind of where I want you to jump in rather than going game by game. And so we have the bye week. We have Arkansas and Neyland, at Alabama, at Kentucky. We welcome Oklahoma to town, New Mexico State, at Florida, and then we end with Vanderbilt. Are there any of those teams that you feel like you've learned something about, or something you want to put back on the radar about what the rest of the schedule looks like?
Yeah, I got 20 minutes on New Mexico State. Absolutely.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Florida should be really interesting because I don't think Napier is going to survive to that game with their schedule. So I do not care if they have 25 scholarship players. I will be nervous. But with that being said, I'm very curious how that game will go. Bama looks like they have righted the ship. I thought they were very impressive against Georgia. Also, transitive property does not work Just because we lost to Georgia and Georgia lost to Bama does not mean we lose to Bama. Okay, so I want everyone to relax. Transitive property does not work in college football. Kentucky's terrible. That's a win. Vandy is in for a rude awakening. I'll believe it when I say it. Sorry, Clark Leah. Sorry, Diego Pavia. Also, if your power rankings have Vanderbilt above Tennessee, please go into another profession. Like, I am not saying Vanderbilt's a bad football team. What Leia has done has been very impressive. That program was dead a lot like Mississippi State after COVID. No program got ransacked like them because of COVID. At least Power 4, Power 5. But with that being said, like if your power rankings are like Vanderbilt's better than Tennessee, please wake up. I have no clue what's going to happen in Arkansas.
No, it's going to be a wacky.
And for those who don't know, Bobby Petrino's the head coach. It's not 2010, but that is where we're at right now.
We'll preview them really specifically next week. It's going to be a little bit of guesswork, and so we'll get into what we expect. That's a game that I wish was not going to be wackadoodle, but it is, and hopefully in ways that we still just take care of business. Couple of things I'll say. One, good job by Alabama. Ty Simpson looks way better than he did. They didn't run the ball. It's Georgia, in Georgia, but they averaged 3 yards a carry. They barely got over 100 yards.
We did better.
Yeah, and all games are different, and so it's not that, whatever. But they didn't score in the second half. And again, like, they won the game. Good for them. They're back. They're much more back on track, and Simpson has looked so much more precise. But some of that precision, I think, has come from a really good script and then very specific plays that have worked. The play that sealed the game for them was a very cookie cutter play where it was like, you have set Simpson up to be in rhythm and this is going to be open and the game's over because now you have possession and the clock's going to run out. Not him making a play. Mm-hmm. And I don't even mind if I eat these words. He's improving, and I think there's no argument there that he's improving. And they went in Georgia and won, so who am I? But they didn't score a single point in the second half, and they got really, really testy towards the end. It's still a wait and see for me. The one that I'm more interested to learn more about, and I don't like that I'm saying this, is the Florida Gators. They welcome Texas this weekend. If I were a scuffling Manning, I would not want to go to the Swamp.
His job's on the line. Like
that defense. So they got embarrassed by Miami.
Yes.
But they were missing 4 or 5 starters on defense. And
they played their asses off.
I could absolutely see a scenario where suddenly all those defensive linemen are back and those linebackers are playing like they have nothing to lose and we're down in the Swamp. Or even this weekend, Texas is down in the Swamp against a healthier defense. And it's not that they're going to hang with you and win 30-28. That doesn't seem very doable from future Hall of Famer DJ Lagway. But that is going to be a nasty defense, and they're going to want to make games nasty. And so the concerns I mentioned about becoming a little bit predictable on tape, people are squeezing, and then we can't run the ball downhill up the middle, that could make for a long day in the Swamp. And so that's on my radar. And especially if they buckle down and Texas cannot do anything this weekend. It's not that that's an incredible feat because Texas hasn't looked great offensively, but they're going to hit you in the mouth. You're at least going to know you played somebody when you go against that defense in the Swamp.
Should be noted, too, John Mater had hand surgery. The guy who did it is trying something kind of new. They think he's going to be back by the end of October, but if they don't have Mater, that game changes drastically.
There's a really
Tennessee's
I just have a feeling he's coming back for that game.
I think that's the case. It also better be a night game. I'm coming for you, Greg Sankey.
That'll be dark mode. It's the day after Halloween.
It better be. That's all I'm going to say. I think the schedule sets up nicely. Now, just imagine if we had to. Well, actually, I wouldn't mind playing LSU right now. But imagine if we had to play Texas or Texas A&M. It's they can afford to lose one more, right? And the question's it just feels like, based off history, they're going to lose at Bama and beat Oklahoma. And then it's going to come down to the Swamp. And we're just going to show up for the podcast preview for an hour, and you're just going to hear chewing fingernails. That's going to be the podcast.
Yeah, we're starting to have those big Saturday nights where we're learning more and more about teams, and so we're not applying any transitive property. We're not writing anything off one direction or the other. But I think we'll continue to learn more this weekend, and I think the team that we can learn a lot about is Florida this weekend. And maybe we learn that it really does just look really bad. But that's the one that's on my radar from the SEC this weekend. I want to do a little bit of a kind of around the NCAA check-in, and then we have one little thing to end it related to some of the coaching openings. The one thing I'll say about the primetime games we watched, we talked about Alabama, Georgia, Penn State, and Oregon. Everyone's watched Remember the Titans. The famous, almost awkward, funny moment in Remember the Titans is when Gary Bertier runs over and points at the coach, and he holds the point at the coach for almost like a beat too long. It becomes like, okay, this was a moment, but now it's awkward. I think that Drew Aller really likes that movie, and that's what he does when he decides who he's going to throw to. Because my God, man, that was so... He Gary Bertier pointed at that receiver in overtime the whole time. And that Oregon linebacker just found depth and basically caught a light punt to close the game out.
He just feels like a Tennessee Titans quarterback. I don't know if that's Will Levis or not, but I like Cam Ward. I do, but he just feels a little bit like a Titans or Falcons quarterback. That might be more accurate. It feels like a Falcons quarterback.
I swear to, if the Panthers draft him, here's the thing.
If
we there's a couple of times, and I know NFL scouts watch tape. I'm not saying that. Some of the talking heads related to the NFL draft don't watch what they should watch. Here and there, you just got to listen to college football fans. Because we were right about Will Levis as much as you could ever be right. And anybody listening to this, whenever Drew Aller is in the draft process and you hear about his measurables and they show the post that he threw against Oregon the other night, stop.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Stop. And all it takes is one team. All it takes is one guy to develop him, a good offensive coordinator, give him some weapons. Stop.
Do not draft.
You have no obligation to talk yourself into quarterbacks. And if you're going to pick one to talk yourself into, don't let it be this one, please.
I will also say I had my eye on Georgia, Alabama. So they were on the big screen. Oregon, Penn State was on the smaller screen. Dan Lanning, man. I don't know why they have the one game a year where they can't play defense, but the other 12 or 13, it's incredible. And you talk to Georgia fans, since they've lost him, their defense has not been their defense. And that was not controversial. That was a really interesting hire because he was 35. He was a DC. Oregon had always been offense guys the entire time since, Rich Brooks was there back in the 70s and 80s. It was a really interesting one. Great hire. I don't know who their AD is. That Phil Knight. Great job by Phil Knight finding him. But it was really interesting watching James Franklin. And it doesn't matter the offensive coordinator, the quarterback, the offensive lineman, the skill position. It's the same offense year after year after year. And when it comes to big games, they cannot score.
The Lanning is the guy and the defensive hire that occasionally this kind of general statement is like, that defense is always going to be on the up and up. And so if he ever finds a quarterback, there's a couple coaches like that, like Venables, I think is one that falls into that category. Lanning has a quarterback.
Dante Moore's very good.
Yes.
And he needs one more year. I hope he gives it one more year. That guy might be 1-1 next year.
The Penn State offensive coordinators, what is it, Koltanecki?
Yeah, from Kansas.
He is one, and this is I don't even mean this as a critique of people who follow football and like X's and O's. He gets so much love because he does creative stuff, and he did creative stuff with Tyler Warren, and he moves.
He doesn't anymore because his head coach is James Franklin. It's James Franklin offense. It's been James Franklin's offense.
That's what I was going to say is, like, you can do all the creative dressing up that you want. At the end of the day, this thing is going to be stagnant at times because of the guy running it.
It doesn't matter. He's had 4 different offensive coordinators. I mean, it's really weird because Franklin is a good coach, but he was an offensive coach, and he wasn't even a good offensive coordinator. Like, he was at Maryland, I think, for like 2 years, and they didn't put up big numbers. But he's like great at everything else, and then he's an offense guy. It's almost Fulmer-esque, even. Yeah. He doesn't have Fulmer's resume, but it's kind of like, that guy was an offensive coordinator? Really? But when you would hear Fulmer talk about offense, it'd be like, are you sure? Like, you were an offensive coordinator or whatnot? But I mean, it doesn't matter who Franklin's offense coordinator is. It's the same offense. Yeah, they run 3 cool plays a game, and then their quarterbacks don't develop, and their running backs are really talented, but they can't scheme them, and it's the same thing.
He's my least favorite coach in college football, just to put that on the record.
That's fair.
The last thing we want to do is jobs starting to open up.
I know.
We're going to specifically focus on the Power 4 jobs that are open, and I imagine there will be more open throughout the season. And so we'll see if any of these slot in. The ones that we have open are Arkansas, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, and Stanford. And we're going to see where we land on what's our top choice there and then what falls in line beyond it. What's your top choice if you had to pick one of those openings?
If I didn't have any sort of like bias or anything like that, or living preference didn't matter, salary's all relatively the same, I would want the Virginia Tech job, personally, for 3 reasons. 1, you have a great recruiting base. They have not tapped into it the last few years, but Beamer has shown if you can hold down the Atlantic states, North Carolina, Virginia, a little South Carolina, a little more up north, you can have a great recruiting base. Virginia produces a ton of D1 talent. That's 1. 2, ACC, competitive conference, but there's a huge opening at the top. It's cyclical. Right. It's kind of a cyclical opening with Clemson's mini demise the last few years. That's number 2. And then number 3 is that's a fan base that has the right expectations. You can go 7-5 one year and not be on the hot seat, but they still want you to compete for championships, but it's not the end all be all. They're going to let you build. God knows they gave Fuente a bunch of time. They tried with Pry. They will give you time. So I would want Virginia Tech 1. Oklahoma State would be 2 for me. Well, who would be your top one? I guess
Virginia Tech would be number 1 for me.
Okay, yeah.
There's a small part of that that's personal. I know Blacksburg, and I like Blacksburg.
Mm-hmm. Good college town, yes.
The 3 points you made, the one I'll add is if you get that thing moving the right direction, that atmosphere is amazing. Like, that is one of those places that falls into the on the probably top 10 list of this is what college football is. And when you have that at your disposal, and like you said, the talent base, etc., you can, especially in the ACC, you can actually envision a scenario where nobody's going in there and beating you, and that's pretty good.
And they've recently gotten some benefactors to help money. I think money had been a little bit of an issue. It's not anymore. Speaking of money, number 2 would be Oklahoma State, because
show me the money on that one.
Yeah, that's it. Big 12. Since NIL. Gundy was a yard away from a playoff appearance, so I can't really say that. It seems like Gundy just could not adjust to the NIL era. I think his offense had gotten stale, and he just couldn't find. He was always a guy that needed a good offensive coordinator, which is another funny because he was an offensive coordinator. Money, Big 12. That's a school that it's kind of the same thing like Virginia Tech. They expect you to compete for a championship. They're not expecting a championship every year. And Stillwater's a great atmosphere as well. Another college town. That would probably be my number 2.
I think for me too, from like a money and support and what can you do with NIL and portal stuff perspective, I think Oklahoma State and Arkansas are probably pretty similar. But one of them you
Yeah.
have to play in the SEC, and the other one you don't.
Arkansas has done better fan base wise, I think, with the expectations. They gave Pittman a plenty of time, and it just didn't work. I understood what they were trying to do. Everyone loves him. Like, I totally get it. It just feels like it's almost a little Mississippi State-ish. Not as bad. There's a ceiling. Virginia Tech and UCLA, or Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State, you can make the playoffs and be a top 4 seed. You absolutely can. I don't know if you could ever do that at Arkansas. Even when Petrino had that thing rolling, there were some caveats to it. We know that, with Petrino, there probably was some stuff we don't want to know about as well. So that would still be number 3, though, because they do have money, although their AD did say, like, oh, no one could have succeeded here. Like, I wouldn't be saying that, but, there. And I would want nothing to do with Stanford and UCLA. You have a soft spot for Stanford.
I have a soft spot for Stanford. I don't know why. I really don't.
When we first started texting, I remember those 2015 texts that, Stanford at 12 o'clock. Like, are you watching Bryce Love? I remember
Bryce Love was, amazing. I still think Christian McCaffrey should have won the Heisman. I'll die on that hill. I don't know why, but I think they can be good, and I'm wrong. They're not going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think Luck and Reich are going to get it. I mean, maybe a better direction, but they're not going to be back where they think it could be. And then UCLA.
It has nothing to do with Nico.
No. And I do. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes in the portal if he winds up there. Very interesting, I'll say. It's
so funny to see UCLA and USC complain. Riley was complaining about their schedule, and then the Tim Robinson, we're all trying to find the guy who did this meme, with like who killed the Pac-12. We're all trying to find out. I would want nothing to do with the UCLA job. Absolutely nothing. That place is a dead end. Like, and Chip Kelly deserves more credit.
Yes, I agree. Who even would potentially be the guy next there?
You have to hire some 35-year-old genius offensive coordinator. And I don't even know if that would work, because here's the thing that these two schools, USC, because I think Riley's not on the hot seat, but if he has another 8-win season, it will be really interesting.
He's so annoying.
He is. But
and I mean that as in that team's the same every year.
It is. It is 100% the same team. The issue that those schools are going to have is that first off, they don't have a ton of money. That's the first one, because they're not quite getting all the Big Ten money yet because of the contracts and stuff. The second part of it is the allure of these California kids has completely changed, because it's like they don't want to go play in Champaign at 12 p.m., 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Yeah, sure, they're going to get kids because it's Cali, but it's not like it was for either one of those schools, especially USC. And these schools just didn't think about that. These presidents and idiot ADs.
If you're a dude, you're going to play for Lanning.
Yeah, you're going to go play for Oregon, or you're going to go to the South, and or go to Ohio State. Like, hey, you're going to play more national games. Your parents can watch you. With NIL, you can even fly them with frequent flyer miles and put them up in a hotel with NIL stuff. So I would want like Stanford, because it's Stanford and there's a prestigiousness to that university. I can understand it. UCLA does not have that. UCLA doesn't really care about football. They're a basketball, baseball school, softball school. So you can make the case UCLA's like football's like 4th on that program.
I'll tell you
and they play 50 miles away from campus and get 30,000 fans.
Yeah, and I mean, from like a let's build this roster perspective, oh boy, that's a task. You're coming off of like a program that's already in a bad place and had a coach that was not ready to do that job, and so took it to a worse place. I'll say this. They have sweet uniforms. I
Love
like
the colors.
I love the way
nickname.
it looks. It can look
Love
awesome.
the script.
Yeah,
Love the helmets. Yeah.
But it's just nasty, nasty, nasty when you start looking at the potential to build.
It is slowly becoming one of the worst P4 jobs in the country. And they have had a really good tradition. And they're going to look back on it and go, why did we leave for the Big Ten? It was not worth that money that we're going to get in 2030 to do what we did.
They play
both in UCLA.
They play Penn State this weekend. And so
on CBS.
Be on the lookout for, a cool running back motion pitch back to the tight end from Colton Ecke. That's going to look amazing.
I'm sure they'll put 35 points up.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The big one this weekend, well, two big ones, I guess. Alabama-Vandy, that's where game day is. And then Miami-Florida State is actually, I think, the big one. I will say another thing that you and I clocked. Florida State beat Bama, and I thank them for it. But you and I both said they're not this high. They should not be ranked this high. I get why they are, but something is going to send them back closer to 20 or 22 before too long. As that game approached, the Friday night of it all, I wondered if it would be that Virginia game, and it was. And so the humbling may continue this weekend, but hopefully it feels like an actual heavyweight bout. We'll see. It's in Tallahassee, so they have a chance to hang, I think.
Should have been an undefeated top 10 matchup. I know, but I was so excited. Like, I still am excited, but it's like that rivalry could have used this matchup. Undefeated and classic Mike Norvell.
It turns out the guy who lost the starting quarterback job at Boston College last year is not going to be perfect in terms of executing an offense in every way. Now, when it's going right, he's a great fit for it. But if they're playing from behind or if they're having to keep up scoreboard-wise, the deficiencies start to show. And
shout out Tony Elliott. We talked about bad P4 jobs. I did not think that was going anywhere. You remember how bad they were in 23. Shout out to him. He's done a good job at that.
Any final thoughts before we head into the bye?
Relax. Just relax. Enjoy college football. This is supposed to be fun, like you mentioned before the season started. It was not on Saturday. I understand that. Relax. Watch some football. I think Arkansas is going to be a nice get-right game. I know it's going to be funky the first half, but I think it'll be a nice get-right game, and we'll see where we're at. I still think this team can make the playoffs. I still think they can.
I'm excited to preview it. We're going to do some other kind of a little mix of like some bye week check-in, and then a nice Arkansas preview, and then from then on, we're rolling in to big parts of the schedule. And when we have this second bye week, yes, we'll obviously kind of touch base, but we'll also then be doing the basketball preview. And so,
yeah,
we'll have some more to pull on.
We made a decision because of how college basketball is now. I got to see the new guys before I can make any assumptions, before I can make anything. Like, I'm sorry, I am a busy person. I am not going to watch 2 hours of Jacoby Gillespie film. Like, it's just not going to happen. So we're going to watch the exhibition and then 2 low non-conference games, I believe, before the bye starts.
Yep. And then we'll be able to get out things a bit more.
Right. We'll be able to know more. I can go more into individual players, what I've seen, who's improved. Can JB Estrella hit a 3? Like, I need to see it first before I believe it, stuff like that. So
deal. Still excited for this weekend in college football. Still never going to apologize for an SEC road win. Other than that, let's relax, and Zach, you can send them out.
Relax, enjoy a beverage, watch other SEC teams struggle, and Vols are 4-1, great playoff position. So appreciate you guys. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We're doing better numbers, and I really appreciate you guys. We're going to keep doing this. So appreciate you guys listening, and go Vols.